I want to thank everyone for coming. So we are here to talk about one of the toughest issues facing Illinois families, reduced access to affordable, quality childcare. According to our own Capital News Illinois, our state has lost 4,300 childcare providers, nearly 33% of our providers in the last 10 years, 1,300 under Governor Pritzker. As the world gets more expensive, working families need safe, affordable childcare access more than ever. There isn't a one-size-fits-all fix to this very complex problem. The legislation we are sharing today is a holistic approach that empowers families, businesses, and the state to work together to provide both immediate relief and long-term structural change. The first piece of legislation in our package, Senate Bill 1120, helps reduce staffing shortages and red tape for providers in childcare deserts and provide relief to working families struggling to afford the high cost of care. First, our legislation creates a loan forgiveness program for college students committed to working in childcare deserts to help encourage bright young students to enter this greatly needed field. To be eligible for the program, students must maintain good grades and work in a childcare desert for an agreed upon amount of time following their graduation. In addition to incentivizing students to go into this vital field, we also want to support those who have already chosen this vocation. In talking with providers, we are consistently receiving feedback about the high cost and inconvenience of renewing licenses and continuing education. For example, home daycare providers, which are a big part of expanding in rural areas, have no backup to attend trainings, and therefore have to cancel days and force parents to find alternative care options. This legislation requires the department to create and provide free online training options that permit childcare staff to complete all required continuing education hours and training in an online format for free. By providing this free service, providers can complete quality department-designed education at no cost around a time that works for them and the working families they support. It also extends licenses from 3 to 4 years. We understand that investing in childcare is one of the best ways we can invest in Illinois families and businesses. That's why this legislation increases the cap for families receiving childcare assistance from 225% of the federal poverty level to 250%. What does that really mean? Under current law, a family of 4 would have to make under $72,000 a year to qualify for state assistance. With this change, that would raise that cap to around $80,000 a year for that same family of 4. This change would open up assistance for working families who are struggling to make ends meet. This little extra help will also better support both employees and employers who rely on childcare to maintain a strong, dependable workforce. With that, I would like to turn this over to Senator Erica Harris.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm State Senator Erica Harris. I proudly represent the 56th District, which is down in the Metro East. I'm here today not just as a senator, but as a mom of 3, and as someone who hears the same concern over and over from families in my district. Childcare is out of reach. Nearly 3 out of 5 families in Illinois live in a childcare desert. In rural areas, it's worse. 70% of residents have limited or no access to childcare providers in these areas. This shortage is forcing parents to make impossible choices, driving long distances, relying on unlicensed care, or leaving the workforce altogether. On the other side, childcare providers are battling a mountain of red tape. The licensing process is complex, expensive, and slow. Nearly a third of applicants will wait 90 days or longer for approval, and promised improvements like online applications are still delayed. We don't have time to wait. Families and businesses need help now. That's why I co-sponsored Senate Bill 1121. This legislation updates licensing rules specifically to help create more options in childcare deserts. It cuts unnecessary red tape and it modernizes the systems used for approval. Instead of the current one-size-fits-all approach, this legislation would allow our state to adjust licensing requirements to better match the local labor market. We're updating the process to reflect the reality on the ground. This bill gives providers more flexibility in hiring and also helps open more centers in places that need them the most, making sure our local communities' needs are met. Just like roads and bridges, childcare is infrastructure. It keeps our communities connected, our economy moving, and our families supported. It's time we treat it that way. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Darby Hills, and I'm the Illinois State Senator for the 26th District. I'm standing here today before you to talk about something that hits home: the challenges that working families face to provide affordable and reliable childcare. This is something that hits home for me as well, because I lived it. I was raised by a single mom who worked 2 jobs to put a roof over our head and food on the table. Things were definitely tight, and every dollar mattered. We did not have a lot, but we had grit. My mom taught me to keep going. She worked overtime shifts and then got up the next day and went to work. She never complained. I took that lesson throughout my whole life, and that's why I'm here today to try to fight for working families to have affordable and reliable childcare. This is why I've sponsored 2 bills: Senate Bill 2020-77 and Senate Bill 2382. These bills are going to tackle the biggest challenges that working families face to find access to childcare. This is not just a local issue. This is a statewide crisis. Working families cannot go to work, especially moms, and take care of their kids. We need to do something about it. This affects every family on every level, all backgrounds, all income levels. They cannot find childcare. This is not also just a personal issue. This is an economic one. Businesses across this country are losing over $23 billion a year because workers can't find childcare so they can go to work. This is a workforce problem, and it deserves a workforce solution. Senate Bill 2277 increases tax credits for businesses that offer childcare to their employees. It boosts the startup credit for creating a facility from 30% to 30% to 50%. And it raises the annual credit for childcare expenses from 5% to 20%. Senate Bill 2382 creates a brand new tax credit for businesses that donate their on-site childcare. It says to a company, if you want to create a space for working parents to have childcare right on your workplace, you should get a tax credit for that. Fair market value to their donation. So why does this matter? Because there's no more convenient childcare that's offered when it's at your workforce. And some of the most successful companies in this country do this. Why? Because it works. These policies help businesses. They attract and retain top talent. They can support parents, especially mothers, who can return to the workforce and not be worried about their children. This will cut down on commute times, and it will provide peace of mind for families. At the end of the day, this is not about tax policy. This is about giving working families the resources to be successful. It's about investing in our workplace, our children, and our future. I'm proud to be here today, rolling up my sleeves and fighting as my mom taught me to do for Illinois families. Thank you.
Be happy to take any questions.
Are there any examples of states that are getting it right, where, boy, this is a great state to be a provider and to be a parent and a customer of these services?
Dave, great question. Childcare, services is a big issue across this country, state by state. Illinois is certainly lagging in that space. We need to build out our infrastructure, most especially in our rural, in our childcare desert areas.
So, but I mean, name a state, I mean, Indiana, Minnesota, Florida, Texas.
Dave, I don't have a state. I don't have a state to compare us to, but I would tell you that matters little to the family that is trying to access the job market and cannot find a local safe, reliable childcare option. That's the standard that we have to rise to.
How much of private industry is offering childcare already, on-site childcare?
You see big employers offering on-site childcare. We are trying to incentivize more employers to get into that space. It is a model that works best for working families as well as and really the Illinois economy. So that incentive specifically from Senator Hills is going to get more employers into that space.
Have you had any conversations with Democrats on these bills?
Yes, we've been. Senator Hills' bill has been assigned to committee, and those conversations continue. We've requested extensions on these bills. Some of this has a cost, and certainly that's going to be part of the budget process. We want to prioritize childcare access and service for families, and to go a little off topic, also after school programs. So that is going to be a big part of what the Senate Republicans are talking about through this budget process.
Is this a function of full employment? I mean, that these are low-paying jobs and people just aren't signing up for them like they used to?
We have the 5th highest unemployment rate in the nation. Those numbers just came out, I believe, today or yesterday. So we are not at full employment in Illinois. So that is not an issue in this state. We have barriers to getting into the childcare industry. So this package of bills seeks to reduce those barriers and build out a more robust childcare offerings throughout the entire state.
Kind of talking to a bigger idea here, obviously rural cities have kind of been dying as bigger cities get bigger because there's more opportunities, there's more money, there's more things to do there. And so do you think these incentives are enough to kind of keep people, especially young people, living in rural areas?
Well, I mean, I would tell you that we have childcare deserts in the city of Chicago as well, and in Cook County. So it is not just rural, it is also urban. What we're looking to do is cut down on the burdens on licensing, on continuing education, to make it more practical. And that is going to make it easier for a childcare service provider, especially in a rural area, to be in business. Oh, sorry.
I wanted to address that question. It's a good question. This is not exclusive to rural areas. In fact, the numbers we have that nearly 3.9 million suburban residents in Illinois are living in a childcare desert. So this is extending out to the cities, it's extending out to the suburbs. It's not just a rural problem, it's an Illinois problem, and we need to do something about it.
When you mention licensing, the first word that comes to mind is safety of children. Give me some examples of overburdensome licensing that isn't going to jeopardize the safety of children.
Well, I mean, the continuing education. So, I mean, we want our childcare providers to continue to like I do as a lawyer, continue education, stay current in safe practices, but we want to deliver it in a manner that is not going to be a burden to the childcare provider, and in a lot of instances cause a gap in service to families. So I mean, that's specifically what we're looking at, as well as going through the licensing. It's a timely process. So trying to cut down how much time it takes to get licensed in a childcare, if you're going to service a childcare desert, almost putting them, you think about it, a little further towards the front of the line, because we have a heightened need in those areas of the state. We want to move that licensing process along.
What stories can any or all of you tell about being parents and securing child care, whether that was easy, difficult, etc.?
Well, I'm gonna, yeah.
We get calls to our offices at least once a week dealing with this issue. The parents without childcare have a hard time going to work. So my office will receive calls from parents who perhaps have a grandparent that is watching a child, and that grandparent can no longer do that, and there's months-long wait to get their child into a facility, so then they are unable to work. So it's really kind of a spiraling effect in that way.
But I mean, in your own families, I believe all three of your parents had to figure out what to do.
Sorry, could you?
What experiences have any or all of you had in trying to solve the child care crisis, for lack of a better word, for your own families?
So Dave, I was fortunate enough that my wife was able to stay at home when our children were younger, and worked part-time and on the weekends, where I would cover on the weekends. I will say, I had many, working in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, I had many attorneys working for me that used child care services. We were fortunate that Cook County had an on-site option with a big backlog waiting. So there was that stress of, would I get in by the time I had to return to work from my maternity leave? And oftentimes that became an issue and a barrier to employment. We had to work with those attorneys or support staff on that to kind of bridge that gap. And so it's really trying to reduce those waiting periods. And where I live in Downers Grove is not a desert. I mean, there are options. But even so, a lot of those options still have backlogs and waiting lists to get in. So the more we build out this infrastructure, really, it's going to be best for all families.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.